Oh man.
All right. And so now we are on to the biggest, most hot button sports talk issue today. Back with more Caitlin Clark WNBA conversation. Um, this has been the most talked about subject when it comes to sports over the last 2 days. For anyone who does not know, um, what was the girl's name? Kennedy. What's her last name? Carter. I think her name is Kennedy Carter. The girl who cheap shot at Caitlin Clark.
Mm-hmm.
So Kennedy Carter is a player for the Chicago Sky. She cheap shot at Caitlin Clark while the ball was not inbounded. Caitlin Clark fell to the floor. I think Caitlin Clark was flopping, but flopping is a part of basketball. They all do it.
Oh.
No, she was flopping. She was flopping. So Kennedy Carter cheap shot at Caitlin Clark to the ground. The foul call was subsequently upgraded to a flagrant one as a non-basketball play, but it's gotten everybody talking about all kinds of stuff. WNBA players are jealous of Caitlin Clark. It was a cheap shot. The WNBA needs to do more to protect Caitlin Clark. All of this stuff that they're talking about on these shows. One of the more standout conversations that took place with respect to this issue was during First Take on Monday, June the 3rd, when when Monica McNutt, Stephen A. Smith, and Shannon Sharp were talking about this, and Monica McNutt called Stephen A. Smith out for what she said was his lack of a resume when it comes to how often the WNBA is discussed as a topic on his show. And I guess the overall, because eventually what they did was they went from talking about the issue, the foul, the cheap shot, protecting Caitlin Clark. They went from talking about that to talking about overall coverage of the WNBA and how that factors into the conversation. And Stephen A. Smith was trying to suggest that he has this record for being First Take being the show that talks about the WNBA the most. And Monica Minot was like, hold up, you could have been doing this a lot more. I don't know exactly what it is that you're talking about. So it kind of went viral because it was looked at as Monica McNutt sort of chin checking Stephen A. Smith. So we'll go ahead and provide a little context before we get into how we feel about this whole situation. So this says Monica McNutt leaves Stephen A. Smith speechless in Caitlin Clark debate with criticism of his WNBA coverage. Monday's opening segment of ESPN's First Take opened with a 40-minute discussion about the continuing fallout over a controversial flagrant foul committed by Chicago Sky guard Kennedy Carter on Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark. Toward the end of the segment, Smith tried to claim that no one talks about the WNBA in women's sports more than First Take after panelist Monica McNutt insinuated he was making the hard fouls on Clark a bigger deal than it is. Stephen A. respectfully, with your platform, you could have been doing this 3 years ago if you wanted. A stunned Smith replied back with a chorus of back-to-back wows. Smith, McNutt, and Shannon Sharp then began talking loudly over one another before host Molly Karam did her best to reel everyone back in for a much-needed commercial break. McNutt's initial point was that rookie welcome to the league moments have always been a thing in the WNBA, and that the discourse around Carter's flagrant foul on Saturday had been overblown to a point where the league as a whole is being villainized for its treatment of Clark. The prevailing sentiment for folks that are just joining the WNBA and following women's sports is unfair to the women of this league who have laid the groundwork for Caitlin Clark to come in and now take it to the next level. Kennedy Carter's behavior is not indicative of the entire league. We are still talking about competition where you are allowed to get a little extra elbow in if you are competing and you do it within the parameters of the game. The game is physical. Caitlin is helping to grow the league. These women understand that, but she cannot be babied as a rookie. So those were comments that Monica McNutt was making on First Take. But what we can do is play this First Take segment so you can get a whiff of the context of what we're talking about here.
Okay, being black. Hold on 1 second. So this is what I'm saying to y'all though, and I know we got to go to break, and we didn't necessarily go there. Maybe we should. There are so many layers in this conversation around the way that it's being discussed. No. And yes, Shannon, I know y'all are gonna say and Stephen A, I know you just shared that you talked about the WNBA on your program too. You guys may not have said everybody, but the prevailing sentiment for folks that are just joining the WNBA and following women's sports is unfair to the women of this league, to your point, who have laid the groundwork for Caitlin Clark to come in and now take it to the next level. That's all I'm saying in these conversations. Kennedy Carter's behavior is not indicative of the entire league. We are still talking about competition where you are allowed to get a little extra elbow in if you are competing and you do it within the parameters of the game. The game is physical. Caitlin is helping to grow the league. These women understand that, but she cannot be babied as a rookie. That's all I'm at.
All right.
Who talks about the WNBA? Who talks about women? Who talks about women's sports more than First Take?
Stephen A, respectfully, with your platform, you could have been doing this 3 years ago if you wanted to.
Wow.
All right, we got
you're my guy, but
who does more than
Stephen A, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you.
Wow.
Don't do that. I'm talking to you about the power that you have.
Okay.
I'm talking to you.
Okay.
All right,
you're my guy, but I'm talking to you.
Guys, I really appreciate
you my girl, but you've missed a lot of episodes of First Take. You missed a lot.
Stephen A, 3 years ago, you were not talking about the W at this level. Don't do that.
Guys.
Nobody was, Monica. You making Stephen A point, Monica. Monica, you making Stephen A point.
Please let me do my job. Please let me do my job. We've gone for 40 minutes straight. It was a riveting discussion. I have to get in the commercial break.
40 minutes straight? Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't even know
I was
they did
actually
that.
watching that, and yeah, they went 40 minutes in before they took the first commercial break talking about that.
Wow.
Yeah. But every sports show has been leading with this story for the most part. So there's a lot of layers to this. I'll just let you go with your overall interpretation of this. There's like obviously the basketball angle of it, the players angle of it. Like, are the players really jealous of her? And then there's how the media is handling this overall. But what is your main takeaway from this latest in the developing Caitlin Clark saga?
More attention, more money, and more problems. I think that's pretty much what's going on here, because what I've been noticing online as far as the conversation is concerned is that old school WNBA fans are not liking all the newbies coming to town. And they're complaining because they're not driving right. They're holding up stuff in the grocery store. Like, they're everywhere and they're annoying. And these WNBA fans know what's going on with this car, for instance, where, you have to jiggle the cigarette lighter a couple times in order to get the radio to work. Like, they know that this goes on in their league. And what's going on is these newbies and stuff is like, why is the radio not working? What's going on? And it's like, hey man, we've been over here rocking with this whole situation this whole time. We know what's going on, and this is normal behavior. This always happens. So that's been the main thing that I've been hearing from either ex-players, fans, that's saying that, look, rookies always coming in, especially number one picks, always come in and get this type of hazing. Now, the bigger discussion is why. Okay, like, why is that a thing? Because I already know that even if there's a guy, and this is before the NBA got soft and coddled, and I'll touch on that too. But even before the NBA got soft and coddled, rookies would have that welcome to the league moment, but it doesn't seem like a coordinated effort. It just seems to happen within the flow of the game because you tried to, set a screen on me, and I'm 2 inches and 40 pounds heavier, and I'm just gonna run through you. And rookie, you should know better than that, than to set some weak pick like that. So those types of things are okay. I get all of that. The stuff that I'm witnessing, the stuff that's happening in the Angel Reese, the stuff that's happening to Caitlin, these look like hits. They look like Bounty Gate. They look like they're out here trying to take people's heads off, literally. Now Caitlin Clark, the flopping, I can't get with that. because I'm here for all the Caitlin Clark stuff. Yeah, I'm a newbie. You know, she brought me to town. So what? Didn't y'all want people in this town anyway? So yeah, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese brought me to town. So now I'm sitting here watching this stuff, and I don't like how Caitlin's flopping. But overall, I still think she's good for the game outside of that. And what I'm seeing right now is people going after her. Now, people are also bringing up this whole thing of Caitlin giving her an elbow-ish or whatever the play before. And then, you know, getting in her face, yapping at her a bit. So she kind of asked for it, in air quotes, and she got what she asked for. She used to do a lot of barking in college. Well, she learned she can't do that kind of barking in the league. I think she's going to be a little bit more careful next time. And honestly, I feel as though I felt like she should have kept it in the course of the game. Take a legitimate cheap shot, and don't wait for a dead ball or her trying to inbound it to cause a scene. I felt like that was in poor taste. But overall, checking somebody for being disrespectful to you within the confines of competition, I find that 100% legal and legitimate. So overall, the discussion, it seemed to have gotten nuanced just because I wasn't privy to this whole, because I heard that Candace Parker used to get it, and amongst others, where, you know, they're the new girl on the block, and here comes all the extra stuff. And for whatever that hazing ritual is that these guys, these girls got going on, these ladies got going on, some guys, then maybe, man, I guess that's just how the cookie crumbles, bro. But I'm not a fan of that. And last point I'll make is I think that everybody is so shocked here is because they have been watching this coddled ass NBA lately, and the NBA is soft as hell. And at least I didn't catch 80s basketball, but I caught damn near all of the 90s, and that was commonplace. And there was a game within the game with that, because if you had Charles Oakley and Dennis Rodman and stuff, those types of guys were valuable. And that's what Draymond Green, the agitator type of thing, but it used to be rosters of those guys, which is kind of what Heat players are. It's like the scrappy, get in your face type of thing. But that's a dying breed in the NBA. So for people that are basketball fans now coming to watch these ladies play and see these ladies taking each other's heads off, the first thing they're crying from the rafters is, this game is too aggressive. And it's like, the NBA needs to be more aggressive. How about that? So what are your thoughts on all of this, bro? This is going left, going right, up and down. What are your thoughts on McNutt, Stephen A., Shannon Sharp, Caitlin Clark? What's going on here?
So there's two angles of this. There's three. There's the cultural angle, the basketball angle, and then there's the media angle. So I'm going to touch on all three of those. Mm-hmm. First, the cultural angle. This is not unprecedented. And it's not just with sports. We see this everywhere. Like, for example, and my overarching point with the cultural angle is, whenever you have a community of people who have been fans of something, and then there's this cultural phenomenon which takes place, which causes casuals to come in and start liking it too, there's always this contentious relationship between the hardcore people who've been paying attention for a long time and the people who have just shown up to the party recently. There's always this tug and pull. And we don't just see it with sports. We see it with books and movies and entertainment, for example. I remember the Harry Potter movies, when the Harry Potter movies came out. The people who like the people who've been Harry Potter fans because they was reading the books, hated the people who just showed up to watch the movies. Mm-hmm. And they'll tell you to your face, you don't know what you're talking about. You really aren't a fan like that. I've been here reading these books. Just because you showed up to watch these movies, you ain't no real fan like that, right? We call them fair weather fans, bandwagoners. Hardcore fans always hate what they perceive to be bandwagoners. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, the books have been around for 60, 70 years. The second that they make a movie, all of these people are suddenly Lord of the Rings fans going to the theaters, and now they like Lord of the Rings. Well, the people who read the books been here. So they feel some type of way because it's like, we've been here with this. Now you showing up just because they made some movies. You ain't no real fan like that. We saw it in golf. Pre-Tiger Woods, golf was a certain kind of way. Tiger Woods shows up. Now all of a sudden you got casuals. I never watched a golf tournament in my life prior to Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods shows up, all of a sudden I'm watching major championships. So people who were into golf before Tiger Woods are looking at people like me and they're saying, you don't really like golf like that. You just showed up to this party and we've been here. You just like it because this shiny new thing is being propped up by the media. So now you're a quote unquote fan. We hate you. That's how these, and listen, I'm not above this. I feel the same way about certain other kinds of things that I've been a fan of for a long time. And now all of a sudden, here come all of these newbies and casuals out of the woodwork because of some popular piece of content or some person who sort of captured the zeitgeist of that particular thing and has gotten mainstream fans into the fold. But we see this all the time. It is not unprecedented. So I bring that up to say, yes, I do believe that WNBA players feel some type of way about her because they've been doing this.
Right.
We talked about Caitlin Clark months ago when before she even got drafted, we was talking about Caitlin Clark. And you was bringing up the point about how if y'all really feel some type of way about her being overblown, bust her ass on the court. Prove that she ain't what the media is saying she is.
Right.
So we already knew what was going to go down when she got drafted. So this is nothing new. Culturally, we see this all the time. If you're I feel the same way. If I was a woman and I was in the WNBA, I would imagine that if I'm a vet and I'm a great player and I've been grinding and I've been putting this work in for 5, 6, 7 years, and now all of a sudden this one player is being heralded as the savior of the sport, I'm going to feel as though my commitment and my achievements and my contributions to this game are being effectively diminished. And I don't blame them for feeling that way. I think that that's human emotion. No one wants to feel like their contributions are being overlooked or diminished, even if Caitlin Clark is deserving of all of the attention she's getting. And I think she is. But this is not uncommon. This is a normal thing. So when it comes to talking about WNBA players feeling some type of way about Caitlin Clark, hating on her, being jealous of her, and jealousy is such a trigger word. I guess maybe we need to look up, open up a thesaurus to come up with a different word for jealousy, because for whatever reason, when you use the word jealousy, people want to get a bit triggered on the internet. So fine, find a different word for jealousy if that makes you more comfortable. The dynamic is still the same.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something that is taking place? Yes. Do I think it's a problem? No, because I think it's human nature. We see it all the time, not just in sports. It's no big deal. So that's the cultural angle of it. Now, when it comes to the basketball angle, I was watching James Jones on Colin Cowherd's show, and James Jones brought up a good point. He said he's been watching the WNBA for years. He's been watching the WNBA. I have no reason to believe he's making that up, so I'll take him at his word. Mm-hmm. And he was saying that he brought up the point that women basketball players, because they're less physically imposing, they're not as tall, they're not as athletic, they're not as graceful in terms of the way that they play basketball individually. Because of those various things, they kind of play basketball on the ground, which means you're going to see more physical fouls and hard play because they can't just get around you or over you as easily because they're not as big, not as strong, not as fast, not as athletic. So because they're not as big, strong, fast, and athletic, yeah, they're going to be doing more of those chin checks. They're going to be fouling harder. They're going to be committing more of those fouls that you might interpret as not a basketball play. Because one of the primary ways that women basketball players gain an advantage is through physicality. Because unlike men, if you're trying to out physical me, I can't just jump over you or get around you with a double dribble step back three. They don't have the vertical aspect to their game or the athletic gracefulness to do those kinds of things. So you're going to see more hard fouls. So to him, he was like, this is run of the mill. It's nothing new. People are just reacting to it because everyone's watching the WNBA now. Which brings me to my third point with the media. And that's where this first take situation comes into play. The media does not know how to handle the WNBA. No. I think that has become very clear now that the WNBA has become an A block or a B block segment, as opposed to something that they just don't even talk about at all. The media doesn't know how to handle it. They don't know how to talk about it. They feel like they have to treat it with some kind of a delicacy, as if it's not just another professional sport that people are competing in. They don't know whether they need to talk about it differently because they're women. They don't know whether they need to use certain words or terminology because they don't want to be disrespectful towards women. There's this overwhelming need on the part of the media, in my opinion, to cape for the WNBA as if they are in need of some kind of protective treatment, because they're like this new thing that just came out of their mother's womb, and so you need to protect them at all costs, when really you don't. It's a professional league. They're professional athletes, no different than anybody else, and all they're doing is competing. And to James Jones's point, it's always been that way because they don't have the same kind of aerial assault type approach to playing that the men do. But the media doesn't know how to handle it. They just don't. They're lost when it comes to how to handle this stuff. So I hear what McNutt is saying, and she's absolutely correct. Was it a cheap shot? Yeah. But dudes cheap shot other players in the NBA too. Nobody talks about it. Was it a hard foul? Was it outside of the bounds of play? Was it a bad look considering it clearly looked like a cheap shot because the ball wasn't even in play? Yes. Is that any different than any other sport? No. And the fact that the media is treating it like it is proves that they don't know how to handle the WNBA, and proves that they don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they just don't know what to do. So McNutt was right to call that out. I think she was right on the money with that. And I think she was right to call out Stephen A. Smith, because I'm calling cap on that. I've been watching First Take for a very long time, and it's the last thing I'll say. I've been watching First Take for a long time. I've been watching First Take since it was a segment called First and 10 during a show called Cold Pizza, which is what First Take used to be. Way back in 2004, that show started off as a sports variety show on ESPN2 called Cold Pizza. It was like Good Morning America. It was like the Good Morning America version of sports. And the debate portion of it was this little itty bitty segment called First and 10. Eventually, it evolved into what we know now as First Take. My point is, I've been watching this show for a very long time. Stephen A. Smith is trying to have his cake and eat it too. They have not been talking about the WNBA like that. That is factual on Monica McNutt's part. That is a lie. And I don't like how Stephen A. Smith does that, trying to make himself seem all virtuous, like, oh, who talks about the WNBA more than First Take? Not y'all, because y'all ain't been talking about it either. So I don't want to hear that BS. I watch this show every day. Y'all ain't been talking about the show like that. Y'all are just like all of the rest of these shows that didn't get introduced to this thing prior to Caitlin Clark in college, and now that it's a new phenomenon, excuse me, you don't know how to handle it. You don't know how to handle it. So, it's a three-pronged issue to me. It's cultural, it's sports, and it's media. The cultural part and the sports part to me are understandable if you get the nuance of it. The media part to me is the part that's doing this thing an injustice, because these idiots in the media and these shows simply don't know how to talk about the WNBA.
Yeah, I think a lot. Yeah, because of the novice type of thing where, they don't know what the hell's going on. So I think they expected ladies. I think that's what they, ladies, ladies night, and they're just going to be out there just keeping it cute. And apparently they don't. And this is my thing. This is my thing with officiating. Clearly, officiating in the WNBA is a lot different than in the NBA. It's clearly college basketball for men and women are different than the NBA. The NBA is such tic-tac garbage where, just a graze on the arm is worth a foul, and trips to the line.
Yeah.
And when these guys are watching these women go to the hole and get knocked over and play still resumes, and they go, hey, was that not a foul? Look at they're harming her. And on top of that, Caitlin with her arms flailing and stuff, I just cannot get into that. And I'm here to be supportive of this, but I cannot support flopping. That I'm having flashbacks to LeBron, and the arms in the air. Where's my call? Go play ball. clearly everybody else is playing. They running down the court. Why are you throwing up your arms? So get that out of your system and play ball.
Yeah.
But what I witnessed is that, yeah, it's a tougher brand of basketball, which I was surprised to see, honestly. And much like most people, but instead of being just surprised, like, oh, this is just how they call it, people are being, getting into bags of other things. Like you said, the jealousy word, people getting triggered by that. We're dealing with estrogen here. And so with that, you're going to get gaslit and other things where they're going to try to mislead you. And that's not what it is. And it has to be. If y'all do this every year, there must be something to that. Like, I don't know why you're targeting, especially let me show her why. But honestly, this would be no different than girls and girls groups. And this is the problem. This is the part where when you start to talk about it like this, because you can clearly see it on a basketball court, people want to, then the women are going, no, that's not what it is. No, that's exactly what we're looking at. This is like Mean Girls, but the professional basketball version of it. And there is a target on that girl's head. There's a target on Angel Reese's head too. And I guess any other rookie, which is weird to me. I get rookie hazing because they do it in the NFL. There are welcome to the league moments, but it's not this. And so, but this is what you get, though, apparently, when women play professional sports. So when men are playing a professional sport, and they're just being men and doing men things, I think what the referees are doing, is they're coming up with all these rules because of how violent things could get, and how, especially like in the NFL or whatever, like they're changing rules, like people can't even tackle the same. So in the NBA, there's also this thing where, commercial, like it's very commercial now. So they can't have all this aggression on the court. Nobody was watching the WNBA. And now that we have all these novices coming to watch it, then it's going to be corporate. And then those NBA files are going to start transitioning over to the WNBA now. Because there's so many eyes, we can't afford all these hooligans on the court, is what they're going to start saying. This hooligan mentality. So it's going to take a little while. These women that are in the league now, they're already bred that they going, but this Angel Reese going forward stuff, they're going to try to commission this type of behavior out, because they do like all the attention, but they don't like this kind of it. They don't like violent attention. They want commercial success or whatever. So I think that, but just to tap back into the Mean Girls thing, I think this is just what happens when you see women interact with each other. And then this is how they assert dominance, and this is how they do things. And yeah, they target the whatever girl, and then it's clicked up. Yeah, so it's wild business. And so when everybody's watching it and then commenting on that, they're like, this is what we always do. But I think the overarching thing is, with people that are watching this with fresh eyes, who are objective to this, I'm not going to sit here and justify that brand of jealousy. But I understand that brand of whatever we want to call this thing, y'all can contextualize it all you want. But this cloud that's floating around, that's attacking these girls from Candace Parker to now, whatever this cloud is, this is obvious to new people. Mm-hmm. So y'all can say that this is, oh, we've always done this. Well, why? And then this is getting into the nature of a woman thing with sports, and which is a conversation people really never really had to have, because people really never really watch this brand of competition with women. And any other time we watch women, it's volleyball, it's softball, it's something that's not like really contact like this. And so for watching women that are in contact sports with teams that can click up and do all this other stuff, and yeah, we're witnessing it. So I think it's just, this is their brand of how they play and compete, and get with it or get left. I would rather them keep doing this, though, as crazy as that sounds. I would rather them keep playing and doing all of this instead of coddled, soft ass NBA. The NBA is whack, bro. when it comes to this, bro, the NBA is soft as hell, and I'm over that. So hopefully the NBA is taking notes and let the guys play a little bit more. But I agree, and just to touch on the McNutt thing, of course I agree. They weren't talking about this, And for Stephen A to sit there and act as if he was is egregious. That wow, that was you're fired.
Yeah.
You're fired. Wow, I can't believe you called me out. You're done. So it's just like, oh man, hey McNutt, man, hey, you always got a spot here at the Conscious Approach, man. Once we cover these Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese topics, amongst others, because I'm starting to see, hey, and last thing I say, I'm starting to see there's some ballers out there, and some of them women are tough. Like they're like tanks. I said, golly, what the hell's going on here? I can't remember their names. I be prize picking. And oh yeah, man. And I slapped one week, bro. I got my 6 out of 6. Come holler at me. I put all hey bro, I put all unders, bro. And I crushed that bit. Got like what 200 out that thing. So shouts out to prize picks in WNBA, man. But overall, I'm loving the attention for the ladies. I hope they just handle this gracefully and stop attacking all us newcomers in town. Handle us with care before we run away again. I say that.
Yeah, I hear all that, and I think that fans, both the new people as well as the hardcore people who have been there, they'll be able to adjust and adapt, and they'll get over the shock value, if there is any shock value, of how the game looks very fast. It's the media that's going to need to undergo some kind of a training on how to be able to talk about this stuff. Because right now, I think it's become flagrantly obvious that the media does not know how to talk about the WNBA. They just don't know how to do it. They don't know, just talk about it like any other sport, because at the end of the day, it's just sports. It's another professional league. But they just don't know whether they need to be sensitive towards it because they're women. They don't know whether they got to coddle it because it's a new thing. Like they're so confused. And you got all of these posers in the media trying to make it seem as though they've been these champions for the WNBA for years when they haven't been. Right now, it's just kind of a mess. And they're trying to cash in on the content factory that is Caitlin Clark, which to me is kind of slimy, albeit understanding, because that's how the media works. But they just need to figure out how to talk about the WNBA most effectively. Like, don't run stories in newspapers and other credible media sources talking about how that foul there, the Kennedy Carter foul, if that was something that happened in the streets, it would be called assault. Like, talk about gaslighting. Like, talk about gaslighting if I've ever heard it. Like, what are you talking about?
Somebody said that?
Yeah, it was. I think it was the Chicago. They were talking about it on one of the shows that I was looking at. It was a newspaper. I think it was the Chicago Tribune or something. It was one of these newspapers, and there was a story talking about how if that was in the streets in regular society, it would be considered assault. Yet Draymond Green puts the chokehold on Rudy Gobert, and nobody's talking about how that's assault. So it's like, look, man, just talk about it within the confines of sports like you do everything else. Stop pussyfooting around this stuff. It's ridiculous. But that's what the media does. They muck stuff up. They make it worse than it already is because they just don't know how to handle it. Like, this is what the media does. This is why people don't like them, honestly. But I just, when it comes, I get all of these elements. They're all at play. Jealousy, whether you want to use that word or not, there is some sort of an animus taking place against Caitlin Clark on the court, but that is not unlike other sports and how that stuff goes on. Physical play is a part of it, and the media just needs to figure out what the hell they're doing. Like, they just need to figure it out. They need to get themselves together.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not going to tell women how to compete because they're different than men, so this is how they compete. I think that's what I'm witnessing. And I think that's what everybody's witnessing. And they're like, whoa, because we watch women compete in the office place and they get just as nasty, probably nastier. Yeah, man. But now, see, this is a game where we're seeing a physical aspect. So it's very obvious and apparent. So we don't see the other times women get nasty with each other. We hear about it, but we don't see it. And this is a sport that literally puts their competition on physical display so we can physically see them do these things. And it is what it is. So if women play football, I'm sure it would be the same way. The more masculine the sport, the more aggressive they would have to be with each other, I would also argue, which is why we don't see this in track and other things and gymnastics. This is a competitive thing. So this is it all rising to the top. And so once people start to see these abrasions coming up out the skin, they're like, what is this? And this is women. This is what happened when you let women play basketball. Not let, but when women play basketball. And when they're playing basketball, this is the form it takes. So I think everybody's just gonna have, this is an acquired taste, just get used to it. So on top of them not having the ability to dunk, they're gonna have they also do these things. So and from, like I said, from hearing from the fans that are always with this is just normal behavior, and they don't see what the big whoop is. So if they don't care about it, I don't think I should. But I still it is what it is, man. But best of luck to all of these sisters, man. It's not a good look, but hey, man, they're getting a lot of attention. So hopefully they can some of them capitalize on this stuff, man. This is wild business.
Yeah, shouts out to Caitlin Clark. I think that she's on the road to being a great player. Yeah, and I just think she needs to stop flopping. But she used to flop in college. She flopped in college too.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, she flops. Flopping is a part of what she does. So that's the only thing I don't like. But otherwise, and the thing is, she ain't asking for no handouts. When she gets cheap shotted, she'll flop, but she ain't crying post game talking about how she's being mistreated. It is what it is. So I just think people need to get over it and just get used to how this thing is played. And people in the media need to stop trying to be Captain Save-A-Holes. Like, you guys are new to this thing. It's okay to admit that. Stop trying to act like y'all were around before and this is how it should be played. Don't do that. That's ridiculous.
Hey, I'm picking the unders, guys. I'm picking unders.